people of Bermuda, members of the media, thank you for your attendance. I know it's a particularly busy time during election season, and there's a number of various press conferences which are taking place today. Today, we're focusing on a very important issue, and that issue is the cost of living. Over the last few years, we have faced some of the most significant challenges of our time. A once-in-a-century pandemic upended lives and devastated economies around the world. And global events that followed, like the war in Ukraine and global supply chain disruptions, further drove up the cost of essentials, in addition to our basics such as food and energy. Inflation soared to highs not seen for 40 years around the world, affecting nations large and small. And as we know, Bermuda has not been immune. As the old saying goes, when the United States sneezes, Bermuda catches a cold. And certainly the trends of inflation in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Europe, and the world also impacted Bermuda. However, in the face of those challenges, Bermudians showed resilience, as we always do. And the Progressive Labour Party government took action to protect the people of Bermuda and to try to soften the blow of these global economic forces. Of course, during the pandemic, we launched a short-term economic stimulus program designed to support small and medium-sized businesses and keep Bermudians working. We followed that up with an economic recovery plan to guide us beyond the pandemic and followed that with an economic development strategy to further strengthen and diversify our economy. And that is what, as we're faced the election, voters should look for. How governments respond in the face of challenges. Because the truth is, government cannot solve all the problems that may exist in a particular country. But what the government can do and should do is use all the tools that are at its disposal to try to make things a little bit more fairer for citizens and to reduce costs to put more money into people's pockets. That is what the Progressive Labour Party has been committed to do, and that is what we have done. We are making steady progress in our economy. We do see that unemployment figures are low compared to where they were prior to the pandemic. Unemployment figures now in the country are looking at some levels not seen in 40 years. There's a record number of Bermudians that are working in international business. Important to note, highest number ever at any point in time, Bermudians work in international business. All of this, insofar as economic recovery, has helped to deliver increased government revenues and allowed us to reduce the burden of taxation on working people in Bermuda and in local business. This government reduced taxes for 86% of workers, keeping more money in persons' pockets while making Bermuda fairer while asking those making $200,000 or more to pay a little bit more. And we reduced taxes on every single local business, with some local businesses seeing up to as much as a 50% tax cut. We increased pensions by the rate of inflation to support our seniors. We increased and expanded childcare assistance. It's one thing to increase childcare assistance, but it's also to expand those persons who are eligible for that assistance. And what we've seen is a significant expansion with now 264 families benefiting from this expansion. We increase investments and have record amounts invested in affordable housing and support with the Mortgage Guarantee Program, which has seen multiple persons get affordable housing or buy their new home. The latest count, 39 persons have benefited from the Mortgage Guarantee Program. 39 persons who are able to buy their first home who may not have been able to do so if it was not for the government of Bermuda. 71 new affordable units that are brought online with more than 100 in the pipeline, and construction is continuing. And of course, we know in the mid-year review that we invested $25 million in a total package, most of which was directed towards social services and infrastructure, speaking to hiring more resources to deal with special needs challenges that we may have inside of our community, children who need more assistance, seniors who may need more assistance, more money put towards crime prevention and assistance in those areas, investing in our community, dealing with the issues that we know matter to the voters of this country. It's important to know that these results didn't happen by accident. They happen because your government is focused on solutions. The government is focused on solutions. And while we've made significant progress, we know that the rising cost of living continues to affect families across our island. To us, The rising global cost of living is not just a headline or a political tool to be used as a soundbite. It is a reality that affects hardworking Bermudians in our communities and in our families every day. We know that you are feeling the pinch at the grocery store, at the pump, and when bills are due. We know that it's not easy to stretch a paycheck when the cost of essentials continues to climb. But let's be clear, your PLP government has not stood idly by. We've rolled up our sleeves, we've taken action where we can, and we've made choices rooted in one simple principle: fairness for Bermudians. So while the root causes of these prices are global, the solutions we put forward are local, tailored to the needs of Bermudian families. Record investments in affordable housing. As global prices skyrocketed, we froze local fuel prices. People may not remember in 2022, after the invasion, where there were significant escalations of fuel prices around the world. One place that was not the case was here in Bermuda. As we froze those fuel prices, despite opposition from fuel companies, we ensured that Bermudians did not bear the full brunt of that global crisis. To address rising healthcare costs, we froze the standard premium rate, saving every policyholder in Bermuda $540 this year. It has been frozen for 3 consecutive years, making sure that we keep more money in Bermudians' pockets, but also in the pockets of employers so they can continue to hire and employ Bermudians. And to address rising energy costs, we slashed government taxes on electricity by 60%, providing relief to households and businesses. It should be reminded that the One Bermuda Alliance doubled that tax. We cut it by 60%, and, as I will go in my remarks, have committed to cutting it further. And also, to address rising food prices, we eliminated the duty on 33 essential items such as milk, eggs, bread, and also other matters like sanitary towels as well, laundry detergent, different things. These decisions weren't easy. They were often opposed or undermined by those who may have wanted to put profits before people and were comfortable with the way that Bermuda was before, benefiting the few over the many. The government made these decisions because we believe that no Bermudian should have to choose between feeding their family and keeping the lights on. And yes, we recognize that there's more work that we must do to get there, but we are committed to making progress towards that goal, because there is no one in this country who would not be able to say that the Progressive Labour Party has not helped and assisted in the face of massive global challenges. And let me reassure all Bermudians today, we will not stop where we were, because we know that more has to be done. Sadly, despite eliminating duty on many essential goods, Bermudian families are not experiencing these savings in their pockets because some local businesses have not passed on those savings to you. So the next PLP government will do more to address rising food costs by fostering competition and exploring new ways to deliver affordable options directly to Bermudians. And if that means that we have to make sure that we supply those items ourselves, then that is a choice that we are willing to make. The next PLP government has committed to reducing energy taxes by an additional 20% in the next budget, bringing the total reduction of government taxes on energy to 80%, a significant reduction that will benefit everyone on their energy bills. The next Progressive Labour Party government will establish a seniors daycare facility that will provide meals and activities and a place to go for our seniors, providing support for the sandwich generation. Remember, this is about talking about the costs that affect families. Senior care is a cost. And what we want to do is to make sure that we can find more affordable options for persons who are experiencing this. I know it very well. The sandwich generation is real. Yeah. Lots of persons know it. We have younger children and aging parents. Yeah. And also, the next PLP government will introduce a free primary care visit for everyone on HIP, because preventative care is important. Reducing out-of-pocket expenses is important, and making sure that persons do that. And also a specialist visit for everyone on future care, because we recognize how difficult those co-pays are. This is what we're talking about when we talk about investing in people and putting money into spaces where it can reduce the burden on persons. Lower co-pays, no co-pays means that more persons access healthcare, and that means that over the long term, people are healthier, which saves money. So before I end and hand over to MP Richardson, on February 6th, the Progressive Labour Party will unveil a bold platform with new cost of living measures designed to lift every Bermudian. These measures will build on our progress and reflect our commitment because we believe in being clear in our plans and sharing what we've done and what we will do to continue building a fairer Bermuda for all. I will now hand over to MP Richardson, who will speak further on this matter as he has quite a bit of knowledge and expertise on it.
Gotcha.
MP Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Premier, and good afternoon to the listening audience. The cost of living crisis in Bermuda is more than a challenge. It is a matter of fairness and shared responsibility. No one in Bermuda should have to struggle to make ends meet while companies report record profits. Let's make it make sense. The PLP recognizes that the high cost of living isn't unique to Bermuda. It is a global problem. And in Bermuda, the PLP are determined to take action. While some may prioritize other concerns, your PLP government has focused on supporting Bermudians through these tough times. Our record demonstrates an investment in Bermuda residents. During COVID, when many people found themselves out of work, we created the unemployment benefit, providing critical financial relief that helped thousands of families meet their needs. I know this from personal experience because many young people that I'm aware of were able to maintain themselves during the COVID period based upon what the government did. And when insurance costs threatened to rise, as the Premier said, we acted decisively to freeze the government portion of health insurance fees for 3 years, saving families hundreds of thousands of dollars, or hundreds of dollars. And that's important to recognize that obviously we know that the cost of healthcare in Bermuda is not exactly low, and everything that we do to ensure that persons pay less healthcare makes it better for them. That actually hits people right in their pocket. Those actions were driven by a commitment to invest in the well-being of all Bermuda residents. We understood the urgency of the moment and made decisions to ease the burden where it mattered. And of course, we've also taken steps to reduce the cost for everyday cost for families. As the Premier said, we slashed duty on essential food items. And persons still ask about that. And so, yes, there is zero cost of duty on many of the essential food items. Freezing gas prices at the pumps, whether you ride a bike or drive a car. That's one of those things whereby if the government did not act, we'd all be paying more, whether you ride a bike or drive a car. So we all did benefit from that. As the Premier said, we reduced energy taxes by 60% to keep Balco bills from being higher than they are. That's again one of those things whereby if we didn't act, your Balco bills will be higher than they currently are, even though we are already complaining about the high Balco bills. And as the Premier said also, we maintained a freeze on health insurance costs to protect household budgets. That is one of the key things for PLP, is making sure that we minimize the costs to everyone. And as we said, these measures did not happen by chance. They were the result of deliberate decisions to support Bermudians and make life a little easier during difficult times. Again, the PLP believes in investing in all Bermudians. While we are proud of the progress we have made, we know there is still more to do. The cost of living crisis continues to affect many in our community, and we do take it personal because we all go and live in Bermuda and have to have the same costs. And we remain committed to finding solutions. In the coming days, as the Premier said, we will share new initiatives designed to tackle these challenges head on. We will not shy away from them. Together, we can ensure Bermuda is a place of opportunity, equity, and security for all. We thank you, Bermuda, for your resilience. Let's make it make sense. Let's continue working towards a fairer Bermuda together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. I'm happy to take any questions. Of course, I'd love to keep on cost of living, but I have no doubt that there might be a little bit of a strain. So I would happily take questions first on cost of living to either MP Richardson, who has a lot of experience on this, or myself.
Hi, good afternoon. Jasmine Patterson with Bermuda Broadcasting. Thank you very much for your remarks today. So just keeping with cost of living, groceries obviously tends to be one of the higher costs. For clarity, would the next PLP government get into the business of supplying groceries?
So I don't want to get in front of the platform, but I think it's important that we understand the progression of where we are. We had a cost of living commission, looked into these particular matters, working with supermarkets and others, and we eliminated duty on staple goods. That was done in 2022. The reports that we have shown that that has not resulted in savings to consumers. Fact, reality. We have it. These are things that we've discussed. And so the question is, what are the next steps? We had promised matters related to pricing transparency. That is work that's currently happening with the government and grocers right now, which I will just state that they are pushing back on. And the latest reason that they said they're pushing back on is they're saying we're hearing that the government is going to try to enter into competition with persons. Now, just to be clear, the government has no intention of running or operating a grocery store. But what the government will do is to support community organizations who may wish to get into cooperative supply agreements for essential goods so that those profit elements can be cut out. And so that is the work of which we're continuing. And when there is comments about unused school buildings or school buildings that will be discontinued, which may be able to use for this portion, I know that Colonel did say he got ahead of himself when discussing these matters in December, but the reality is that is the direction of travel. But it's important to note that this is not something that is just, oh, we're going to do this. This has been a longer term issue. What is the easiest way to deal with it? Let's deal with reducing and eliminating the taxes and working with the grocers. What we've seen and the reports that have come to us is that consumers, who will tell you when we knock on the door, you shop too, Jasmine, I'm sure, will say you're not feeling those. And we have to remember, some were 5%, but others were 25%. And so when we're seeing categories of goods that are essential, such as I think 25% was sanitary napkins, et cetera, diapers, et cetera, which were 25%. And when the statistics that the government has are showing that 3 years later, the prices are higher than the 25% cut, there's clearly an issue here. And so the Cost of Living Commission is continuing to work through on the pricing transparency. We're going to make sure we put that, but the government is looking to go further because something must be done because consumers are hurting.
Well, the argument is the grocers are having to pay out more in supporting their workers and to keep the lights on because electricity is too high. I mean, what is the solution? Do we continue reducing essential goods on tax?
So I can accept that argument to a point, Jasmine, just so we're clear. But here's the reality. Payroll taxes on those employers have been reduced. Health insurance rates, insofar as the standard premium rate has been frozen. Important to note. Energy taxes have been cut, so on demand customers, they are not paying more money on electricity costs. And if you want to compare 2022 to these rates, you can go ahead and compare those rates. We have done, and when it comes to fuel for their trucks and trucking, et cetera, we know that we've frozen those rates as well. So yes, I can understand the dynamics of which stores may speak about, but I can also state that there is, in the view of the Cost of Living Commission, other spaces for additional accommodations to be made. Now, we live in a market economy. This is not going to be a space where we're going to talk about price controls. And in this research and all the rest, there was a question about, well, if you enter this and supermarkets reduce their costs, what are you going to do? I say, well, that would be a benefit to everyone in the country. And that is what we're trying to do. But as I said, don't want to get ahead of ourselves because February 6th, we will unveil the platform. We'll speak about all the items. But cost of living is a very big issue. And this is something that the government has been focused on tackling, continue to focus on tackling, and we will make sure that we continue to press so that things are happening. Do you have anything to add, Anthony?
Well, I can add that I was on the Cost of Living Commission. Actually, I was the chair and now I'm a member. And what the Premier is speaking about is excellent in terms of when we reduced the costs, we wanted to make sure that the grocers and otherwise, they did reduce the prices on the retail, on the actual goods. And so now we're going to redouble that effort. And what the Premier hinted at also is that, let me tell you this real quick. The other day I was going to buy some eggs. I was in St. George's and the eggs were like almost $10 a carton, right? And I sent a message out that said, this is crazy. And so I ended up driving around and found eggs in Southampton at $4. And so what the Premier is saying is that we're going to have this app whereby I would see right away, I'm in St. George's, right away I would know where to go and get eggs cheaper. That is how we'll actually benefit the average consumer. You'll at least know where to go to get these items at a lesser price. That is a significant benefit.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to healthcare. Some would say you've hit a roadblock on healthcare reform. In other words, is it proven to be too difficult to change the status quo and substantially reduce the cost of healthcare in this country?
Well, Anthony knows a little bit more about health than me, given his experience. So I'm going to let him answer that question. I'm just going to speak at the top level. No, we have not hit a roadblock. Those things are progressing. But as we've seen, and I want to just focus on this point, education reform, healthcare reform, tax reform. This progressive Labor Party has not been afraid to take on the very difficult issues that are politically challenging, but recognizing that those changes have to be made for the benefit for the future. Universal healthcare, I do believe they're unveiling something that is going to be speaking about the path on it, and I think that should be coming out this week. And so you'll certainly be hearing from the government on that. But no, we haven't finished, but it is vital that we get it right. And there are so many different stakeholders that are dealing with this, from the Bermuda Health Council to the hospitals, to the doctors, the insurers, to everyone else, making sure we get the data, do it well, and also talk about how we deliver better healthcare here on island. So I'm sure in this campaign, and I'm happy to focus on the issues because there'll be a lot of things to speak about, but from a cost of living perspective, vital to recognize what it is that we are doing. Before we get to universal healthcare, we recognize that more employers are putting their employees on HIP. And what we want to do is to make sure they have preventative care, they have access to see a doctor, and so it's not the copay that they have to go to the doctor, which means they don't go to the doctor, which means that the problems that may be able to be picked up through a regular visit are delayed. And for those seniors on future care, access to a specialist so they can see, because we recognize that the copays for specialists are extreme, which may have people not going to see specialists. Anything to add on healthcare?
I mean,
You're on the Health Council.
Sure. I'll just add that when it comes to healthcare, definitely no, there is no roadblock. We have not reached a roadblock at all. There's a lot of work that's being done in preparation. You could imagine, as the Premier just said, that when you talk about reforming healthcare, it's a significant effort. And so a lot of pieces are being put in place before we roll it out. And what I would say, given this audience at this stage, is for each of us to continue to take personal care. Like, do what you need to do to keep yourself as healthy as possible. And that way you have to access the healthcare system less than otherwise. And so there is a degree of personal responsibility when it comes to engaging the healthcare sector.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna quickly switch gears. The departures of Wayne Keynes and Derek Burgess was announced yesterday. Is there a rift within the party?
I can answer that real quick. The answer is no, clearly no. What we tend to forget is that Bermuda is a democracy, and each of us have decisions to make. In the instance of the the Honorable Derek Burgess, he has given yeoman service. He's a senior member of the community, and he has made a decision that he is going to retire from politics. If you look at his comment, by the way, he is not withdrawn from the PLP. And similarly with MP Keynes, he has said he is not going to run this time. He is not withdrawing. And if we all know MP Keynes, he does so much in the community, he has made a personal decision at this time not to run. But no, there's no question about a rift. It's, people make decisions.
Is it not frustrating as party leader to lose two of your strongest candidates so close to the election?
I'm not going to speak to that. People have their decisions, but the party is ready. And as you know, we have a full schedule rollouts this week. And those announcements will be made. My statements, which I made yesterday in the press, are the same ones I made. It's I salute Cousin Derek's service. He has given yeoman service to this country, to this party. He's been deputy leader, has been minister in a number of times, president of the BIU, and with MP Keynes. He served with me in cabinet, and he's made a decision. And as I said, I don't view it as a departure, or as some person put it, a resignation. I view it as a pause. There are persons who have other things, and we don't want to talk about what may be going on, but people need to have that right. But there's other people who will step up, and we will put forward on January 31st, a team of 36 towards the persons, a team that is ready for the future. And here's the other thing you have to recognize. There's a lot of persons that are coming into the party, and a lot of persons who are also, making their way to exit. So whether it's long-serving MPs like Colonel, or the deputy leader, or Derek, this is a normal transition that happens in parties where people step away at general elections and persons come in to take their place. I believe it is healthy that is actually happening inside the Progressive Labor Party, and I'm pleased to see it.
It was said publicly on Monday that the Burt administration, people have
publicly by
problems
who?
By Miss Renee Webb, that there was there's people take issue with your leadership style. You've heard the word dictatorship thrown around, micromanaging, etc. How would you respond?
Well, the first thing I would say is that you must consider the source. And it is clear that, and it is very clear that that particular individual has sour grapes. And the reality is when you're dealing in this job, when people are disappointed with the decisions that you make, which may not personally benefit them, when they want a position or something and you say, sorry, and you make a different decision, people may harbor views and resentments. I'm not going to go down that road. I'm going to focus on the matter which we did. Anthony Richardson, who serves as secretary of our caucus, can happily speak to matters related to those things, which is just rolled around with people with no knowledge. And he can share with you that we have the most open caucus in the history of the Progressive Labour Party. But go ahead.
Sure. I mean, I always speak to that point very briefly in terms of the premier being a dictator. The answer is no. If you know us, we are all individually stubborn. And Mr. Premier, in a different realm, will say just that. Him and I do not always agree. We go at it sometimes, but that does not mean that there's disagreement or whatever the case may be. And so, to use a colloquialism, I and many others are quite bullheaded. There is no way that the Premier can tell us what to do and expect us to follow his line. That just doesn't work.
Okay, thank you. So if I could touch on housing, yes, this is my last question. I'm so sorry. Morgan's Point redevelopment project. Do you have any updates? What's changed since then?
Morgan's Point is certainly something that is a challenge. And I say a challenge from the perspective that we'd wanted the redevelopment to go ahead and start. I know that the board is doing work. There's all the issues related to transition. There's all the issues that are related to transition of the land, different things. But I think, and I know that updates will be coming. I know we had a discussion in Cabinet today, and the Minister of Public Works and I will have a meeting going forward. Do I have an update on when construction is going to start? I know that the intention is to get buildings 1 and 5 started this year, but here's the reality. It has been delayed. And so I'm not going to sit here and say nothing. That has been delayed. And as the minister who shares responsibility with the Minister of Public Works, I am disappointed with the delay. That much being said, I'm pleased to know that we, on a housing front, are continuing to deliver affordable housing projects, continue to make this investment in affordable housing. We do recognize that though it is controversial, we know that before at February, there's going to be families that are going to be moving into the Bermuda Beach complex as well, putting relief on some of the housing strains of which we have in this country. So we're continuing to work, continuing to press forward on those particular issues. And I know that Colonel, even though he's not running this election, will be at this lectern and sometime in the future to talk about housing, what we're doing now, and the plans certainly for the future. Thank you very much for your questions, Jasmine.
Good afternoon, Premier Minister Richardson, Gareth Finnegan, Raw Step. Staying with the cost of living and housing specifically, you talked about 39 families being able to buy their own home for the first time through the mortgage guarantee program, along with the government building 70 affordable housing units. That's really just a drop in the ocean, wouldn't you say? It's, well, you know, in a population of 60 plus thousand.
So let's just remember where we are, Gareth. We're in an election period, and elections are our choice. The One Bermuda Alliance delivered 0 affordable housing units in their time in office. Since 2022, we've delivered 71, with 118 more scheduled to be on the way, in addition to a mortgage guarantee program, which was opposed by many in the community, but has allowed first-time homeowners to get on the property ladder. This is an accomplishment. So yes, some persons may want to poo-poo and say this and all the rest, but remember, this is an election that compares the records. Record investment in affordable housing under the Progressive Labour Party, contrasted with a One Bermuda Alliance the last time they were in office, who delivered 0 affordable housing units in 4.5 years. We are starting the work. We are continuing the work. We will continue the investment. And that is what this choice is about. Because the people know who will put their money where their mouth is when it comes to finding ways, whether it's the government's balance sheet with a mortgage guarantee program, or whether it is any financial resources to deal with the issues related to housing. And what do we see in the pre-budget report? We see reduction in taxes on building materials, cutting it to 0 to make affordable housing even easier to build for the private sector as well. That is our mission. We recognize the challenge, and we actually have a plan to deliver it. Not just slogans to say, this is bad, we have a plan, and we're going to continue to press forward with our plans. I hope that you would ask the One Bermuda Alliance next on the press conference, what is their plan and how it will differ from the Progressive Labor Party?
Now, you suggested that when you roll out your platform on February the 6th, that you implied that there are going to be future tax breaks or benefits or some sort of relief. Are you confident that you're going to be able to afford that? And are you banking on the revenues coming in from corporate income tax? And if so, can you guarantee that that revenue is going to come in?
So here's the thing. I do know that the Royal Gazette and others are obsessed with talking about the future of the corporate income tax. Every single press conference, every single statement, it's around this. Let me just give a reminder to you and the persons who are watching. This Progressive Labor Party government is delivering a budget surplus after cutting taxes for 86% of workers and every single local business in the country prior to a dime of corporate income tax receipts. I want you to remember that, and I want that to sink in. That is important. In the future, what I have said is that in the next budget year, as we await the views from the Tax Reform Commission, we have set out what we're going to do next year, but we're not going to make commitments to the future. I do not believe what you're going to see in that platform is talking about what may happen on those things. There's other people who are promising everything under the moon and the stars. I think it is responsible. We got here by making sure that we had collaboration with international business and others. And this government has demonstrated that you maintain confidence in business and investment by continuing that. So I don't think that's what you'll see. But what you will see are forward-looking government policies that are tackling the issues that we face, focused on matters related to expanding Bermudian ownership and making sure that Bermudas are greater owners inside of our economy. We have done work on this, if you look at the mortgage guarantee program, and there's more to go when we talk about pension reform and others. So we have the license to be a little bit bold. I'm excited with the young party members that are working on putting together our platform for the future, as it's important to note that this is going to be a platform for 5 years of the Progressive Labor Party governance. And so there's going to be a new leader, but you know this team is committed to keeping its promises. And that's what you'll see in that platform.
Okay, well, thank you. Moving on to other things, were you surprised by the resignation of Mr. Keynes?
I don't think it's a question of resignation, and I would hope that people stop using that term. He is elected, that he's not putting himself forward for this next election. And as my comment said, I view it as more of a pause than an exit from politics. And the persons have things. Politics and service is difficult. So I pay homage to the persons who have served, and I look forward to their future contributions. He has said that he will canvass up and down constituency 14 with his chosen person who the party selects, and we look forward for his continued support behind the scenes in the Progressive Labor Party. But people have certain different things that they have to deal with, and I think that from that perspective, we all support his decision.
So it had nothing to do with the, shall I say, row between Mr. Keynes as chairman of the board of the Bermuda Tourism Authority and the tourism minister, Mr. Darrell.
Oh, I certainly think you're reading too much into things and putting things aside. I don't believe that had anything to do with it. Thank you.
Okay. We've also heard reports that should the PLP be successful in next month's election, it is considering abolishing the Bermuda Tourism Authority. Can you speak to that at all?
I'm sure that will not be in our platform, and I have not heard anything whatsoever as that being mooted as a view and a plan and position. I think what's important is that we support tourism in any way, shape, or form possible. And I think that I'm not going to discuss what may or may not be happening, as which has been discussed in media at this particular press conference. We're focused on the cost of living. But if we want to talk about tourism, I know that in cabinet today, there were stats that revealed that in 2023, visitor spending was up about 46% over the prior year. And those statistics will be released later. So we have to remember, we have pulled this country back from a once-in-a-century pandemic, and at the same point in time, doing everything that we can to help Bermudians cope with a global cost of living challenge. Reduction of taxes, reduction of customs duty, reduction of fuel taxes, fuel duty freezes, mortgage. Those are the things of which this government has put forward, and that is what it is. It's about challenges will always come. No one knew about a pandemic before we came into office, but we were up to the challenge. Cost of living crisis came. People did not know what to do, but we were up to the challenge. We have demonstrated that we can face. No one knows what the future will hold, but what the people of this country want to know is that they have a competent government that can deliver. And you just have to take it from the former One Bermuda Alliance chair who said it themselves. The One Bermuda Alliance is not ready.
And one final question, Premier. When you announced the election 2 weeks ago, I think it was, you said that Bermuda was on the cusp of a pivotal time. What do you mean by that?
When we talk about the future of the pivotal time, the reality is that there is going to be a new era when we're talking about a new revenue source in the corporate income tax. That is a reality. I'm not going to make pledges and things on how that money is going to be spent, but that is a reality. The fact is that that is what Bermuda is facing. Hold on a second, Gareth. Let me just tell you something else. First, budget surplus in 21 years. Before a dime of corporate income tax. That means that all the times that we have spoken about reducing our debt for future generations, we are now have the capacity to do that. Highest international business employment ever. Bermuda being recognized as someone who is playing a significant role in the future. We have our hotel, our largest hotel, being reopened and rebuilt with a massive amount of investment. We see jobs and opportunity, cranes returning to the city of Hamilton. That's the reality. And we've had to work hard to get here. Are things perfect? No. But I will quote my pastor. The absence of perfection is not the evidence of failure.
Premier Richardson, thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jasmine.
I'm sorry, one more question
To
just
Anthony?
popped up. For both of you, if you'd like to comment. You undertook a red tape consultancy. I wondered what actions have been taken since that closed and if any movements happened.
Well, that would be more for me to answer, not for you. I'm so happy that you asked that, Jasmine. One of the things I think, so we had the red tape, we report on the red tape, a number of the things, the biggest focus was in the Ministry of Economy and Labor, and also there were focuses on the Transport Control Department. I think you have heard some announcements from the Minister of Transport on some streamlining initiatives. I know there's more to come that is based directly from that red tape consultation exercise. I can report that clearly when we look at passport processing times, those things have come down significantly from the challenges of which we were experiencing before. So there certainly is progress. And if you want to go ahead and write into a question on that, we can certainly send back because those are things that we are tracking. We do make sure we bring them up with ministers, the things inside of Public Works and other particular ministries of which we're doing, even in the Ministry of Finance. Some of the things came through insofar as the Department of Social Insurance, insofar as streamlining. We know they're putting a number of things online so people no longer have to call. There are also complaints about the land title registry, and we know that we put in an AI system in there. So we have focused on that particular matter because we know that it is important to improve service in government. A lot of that comes from investments, and I'm happy to go ahead and share and expand on those particular items and have those things put together for our report at Bermuda Broadcasting.
Okay. Just lastly, people complain about the time of these changes coming about. You know, is efficiency a concern?
You will never find me at a podium or lectern criticizing public officers because by and large, our public officers go above and beyond. But it is really hurtful when I hear statements like statements that were given yesterday by candidates who say that the public service is bloated and not working. The reality is that there are still 20% less public servants than there were 15 years ago. That's just the reality. And so they've had to continue to do more with less. And as we continue to invest in technology, continue to allow more hiring to happen in roles such as infrastructure, in roles such as healthcare, et cetera, we are seeing some relief there. But I think that it's important that people understand that when dealing with government budgets, I promise you, I would love to make sure that every particular role is filled, every particular need is answered, all the rest, but we have to live inside of a budget envelope. But I think that we've successfully demonstrated that we've been able to do that, getting ourselves to a balanced budget. So when we're talking about the timing, yes, we would want things to go quicker. But the reality is that public officers have many different demands. Their day-to-day activities, new things that happen, emergencies that may arise, and also, things that we discussed last year, but I'm not going to put it on this one. Patty
Thanks for your
requests,
time.
Jasmine. That too.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for your questions on cost of living.